Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'm 33 male. I have had a very rocky relationship with my family. For the most part, I have tried my best to be understanding and accommodating, and I believe my parents have too. But I guess that hasn't been enough to ensure a cordial living environment. When I was 10 years old, my parents got divorced. I wouldn't say I felt any resentment at that time, only relief, because living with both of them under the same roof was no simple task, especially for the faint-hearted. I grew up with the most dysfunctional set of parents who were always fighting and screaming about one thing or another. I was made their referee or mediator at a very young age, and I remember having to resolve their fights or get them to talk to each other on bad days. On some days when I felt overwhelmed, I just didn't come back home from school and went to stay with my paternal grandparents. They lived a few blocks away. It was only with them that I felt some respite, and they doted on me, so I loved being there. They tried to intervene in my parents' issues, and when they realized that their efforts were futile, they tried to tell my parents that it wasn't my job to be the adult in the house and take care of their issues. But I guess all of that fell on deaf ears. Moreover, I never felt that what I was doing wasn't what normal kids do, because I had grown up being the tethering point for my mom and dad. I had to bear this responsibility since the beginning, and I never even imagined that wasn't what other kids spent their time doing. So when the divorce was happening, I was relieved. I spent 2 weeks with each parent, and it was only in that situation that I actually began to thrive. There was no more shouting, no more anger, just one-on-one time with one parent at a time, and I loved every bit of it. I got their attention, I got peace of mind, and I got a lot of free time to do what I wanted to. One good thing about them was that after the divorce, they never once complained about each other to me. They might have had issues with each other, and they might have ran to friends, but they chose never to do it with me, and I am very grateful for that. The constant barrage of hate against each other stopped the moment the divorce was finalized, and Mom moved out. 5 years later, when I was 15, my father remarried my stepmom, Savannah. Savannah and I have shared a cordial relationship thus far. She has never tried to be mom to me, but has always tried to include me in the family unit. She is a good woman, and I have nothing against her. The initial period of adjustment with her was hard, but all in all things turned out reasonably okay. The only issue was her daughter Gemma, now 25 female. She was 7 years old when Savannah and Dad got married, and if I'm being honest, she was a bit of a brat. My dad, in order to keep the peace, bent over backward to accommodate Gemma and all her ludicrous demands. Anytime she did something to anger or trigger me, he defended her by saying that she was a kid and was trying to adjust to moving to a new house, which is why I had to be the bigger person and not create a fuss. A few examples of what happened after she moved in was that she took over my entire room since she was supposed to stay there permanently, and I was there for only 15 days a month and would anyway be leaving in a couple of years for college. I had to be okay with this compromise. Well, I wasn't. I didn't want to give up my room or even share it with a strange kid half my age. My dad was insistent that the maximum compromise that could be reached would be that she and I would be sharing a room. Savannah stepped in at that time. I don't know if it was because she wanted to protect her daughter from a stranger, or she didn't want to antagonize me, or a mixture of both, but she said that taking away my room would be cruel, and they would fit Gemma in somewhere else. It was her urging that ultimately made Dad leave things as they were, and not the fact that I didn't want to change my room. It felt weird knowing that he didn't listen to me, but listened to his new wife. That was the point when the dynamics changed for me. I didn't like being at Dad's place, and it wasn't because of his new wife and daughter. It was because of him. He was the one who made me feel unwanted. It was only because of Savannah and her efforts that I continued going there. To be honest, she took an active interest in my life, tried to spend time with me, and made food that I liked when I was there. It was as though she saw Dad being negligent, and she tried to cover up for him. Gemma was a whiny little girl, and I generally stayed away from her, and Savannah never forced me to form a bond with her daughter either. It was generally Dad who tried to push the "your siblings now" narrative. 3 years later, while I was about to leave for college, Dad and Savannah had a kid together. my stepsister Ashley, now 15 female. There is too much of an age gap between Ashley and me to form any sort of relationship with her. Even though she's technically blood, I have no bond with her. When she was born, my dad called me aside and told me that he was in a bit of a rough spot, so he wouldn't be able to help me with university and that I was on my own. That came as a big shock to me, because I had always been told that both mom and dad had saved for my college, and the combined amount was enough for me to not rely on loans. And when he backed out, my mother pitched in more to try to minimize my loans. I still had to take loans, but they were not as hefty, and I've held good enough jobs after college to be able to keep paying them off. However, this kind of permanently strained my relationship with Dad. This was money that had been promised to me, and he used it for his new family. I rarely went to Dad's place after that. I had very low contact with him, but surprisingly stayed in touch with both Savannah and Gemma. I guess it didn't matter to my father that I was no longer in his life because he had a kid to take care of again. We were low contact for almost the next 7 years, in which I graduated college, got a job, and moved cities. Even lived abroad for a year. However, when I was 25, Dad reached out to me again. He tried to engage in some small talk, but I knew there had to be a reason for him to get in touch with me, and then he said it. It didn't take him long. Apparently, Ashley had had a medical emergency a few months ago. I had known about it from Savannah and regularly asked for updates, and it had been a huge financial strain for them. Savannah had some money saved for Gemma's college, but Dad had used it all for Ashley's medical bills without Savannah's knowledge, so he was begging me to help with Gemma's tuition fees and said that he would repay every penny to me. I didn't want to help him out. I wanted him to face the consequences of his actions, and I told him so. I told him that he had failed me as a father, and I had hoped he would do better by Gemma, but clearly that was not the case. I told him this was exactly how he had left me stranded when I had to go to college, and now he was doing the same to Gemma, and that too after literally stealing the money meant for her. I told him that I had taken out loans, and so could Gemma, but he said that she did not have the support of her biological father, like I had support for my mother. I disconnected the call. I knew I would help Gemma. She was a sweet kid and I had nothing against her, but I didn't want to see Savannah. So I called up my dad again and told him that the only condition that I was willing to help him out with was if he was honest with Savannah, and that if he promised to pay me back. He said that he did not want to involve Savannah, but I said that I wouldn't be shelling out a single penny if he wasn't honest with her. He cut the call, and I thought that was the end of it. But 3 days later, Savannah gave me a call. It sounded like she had been crying, and she just thanked me for everything I had done. I told her that I would help out Gemma with the tuition fees, but that I would be giving the money to her and not Dad, because I did not trust him. She agreed, and that was that. Even Gemma called me up thanking me, and we have had a better relationship since then. Now comes the real issue. I am engaged to my fiance Mahira, and she is Afghan by ethnicity, but was born and brought up here. This has rubbed my father the wrong way, and he has made sure to be very public and vocal about his disapproval. Not that I care, because I don't have a functional relationship with him anyway. My mother and Savannah both like Mahira, and Gemma and she are quite close. So all the people that I care about have a good opinion of her, and that is what matters to me. We are planning our wedding, and I went to my dad telling him that I need him to pay me the money that he owes me, also known as Gemma tuition money, and that I wanted it soon because that would go into funding the wedding. My father told me point blank that he would not be giving me any money if I planned on getting married to that immigrant scum. I told him what I did with that money was immaterial, and he had no right to hang it over my head like a sword. It was my money, and he owed it to me. Even if I used it to wipe my ass for the rest of my life, he did not have a say in it. He said that he would not be doing it to fund my wedding, and that I could do whatever I wanted, but he wouldn't budge. To say that I was furious would be an understatement. There were a lot of harsh words spoken, and I uninvited him to my wedding. I also told him that I would be exposing his treachery to his family and the world, but I think he did not take me seriously at that time. I decided that instead of going nuclear, I would just let the close family know how he was deceiving me. So I drafted a long text detailing how he stole Gemma's money to take care of Ashley, and then came begging to me for help and promised to return the money to me, only to backtrack the minute he found a reasonable excuse to not pay. This was the gist of the entire text, because it is too long to replicate here anyway. I sent the message to my mother, Savannah, Gemma, my paternal grandparents, and my father's sister and her family. I kept Ashley out of it, because she is a kid and she should not be knowing all this. I hadn't expected any drama or revelations in response to my message. Frankly, I had only done this to vent my frustrations and anger, and a part of me regretted it too, because I could afford the wedding on my own. But I am so glad I did, because it opened a huge can of worms, and now it is for all to see how big of a scum my father really is. A day after I sent that text, my paternal grandfather, Grandpa from now on, called me up. We exchanged pleasantries, but he cut to the point soon enough. He asked me if what I had sent in those texts was the truth, and if I had actually helped my dad with Gemma's tuition. I said that I had, and that I had loaned him quite a lot of money for the same. He asked me if I was sure that he had said that he had used up the money for Ashley, and I said that I was completely sure. That was when Grandpa told me his side of the story. So when Ashley fell sick, Dad called up Grandpa immediately. He said that he was facing financial difficulties and that he did not know how to arrange for Ashley's medical expenses without taking on huge debt. He said that he had Gemma's college fund, but since he had no access to that, he could not use it for Ashley. I cut in and told my grandpa that Dad had told me that he had in fact complete control of those finances and had used them, and that too without Savannah's knowledge. I also told him that I had to intervene and tell Savannah that he had used up Gemma's money. All in all, what I gathered from the conversation was that Gemma's money was not used for Ashley's bills because all of that was paid for by my grandpa, and even he was assured that the money would be returned to him. Gemma's college fund, therefore, was taken by Dad for other reasons that he has not yet disclosed, and no one knows. Savannah and Dad were not in it together and just wanted to scam me out of the money. I felt so nauseous after I cut the call. It was as though I was stranded among scammers and cheaters, and not one of them could be trusted. I felt as if I had ruined my wedding, because all this was just too much for me to handle, and that too right before the beginning of a new chapter in my life. I called up my mom and told her everything. She just told me to cut this crap out of my life, and that I could fight these battles later. She said that I was getting married to a good woman, and that I owed it to her and myself to not let other people ruin this experience. She said that I had all the time in the world to take Dad and Savannah to task, but this was not the time. I knew she was right, and surprisingly, I didn't have to do anything or even wait because my grandpa was furious, and he was back with his little revenge that was about to completely screw my dad for all time to come. So the house that Dad and Savannah live in is owned by my grandpa. He gave it to Dad to live in when he married Mom, and then never asked for it back. It was anyway assumed that the house would go to my dad when he passed. He also never charged Dad rent, but Dad had to pay for any upgrades and changes that he made to the house, which were plenty. Now for the drama. My grandpa sent a message to the family group that he would be gifting me a house for the wedding to allow me to start a new life with my wife. He said that he had done the same thing for my father and was going to do the same for me, considering the fact that his son had not thought of doing anything for his son. It was a poorly masked jibe of my father, and I was all in for the show. But what he wrote next was completely unexpected. He said that the house that was supposed to go to my father, the one that Dad was living in but was still legally owned by Grandpa, was the one that he would be gifting me. I know that he has done it out of spite, and I am sure even Dad knows it. The thing is, I do not live in the same town as Dad and have no plans of returning, and this is a well-known fact in my family. The ownership of the house will of course be a huge asset for me, but I won't be staying in that house at least until I retire. But my dad will. That has been his only home for so many years now, and to take that away from him and give it to me as a deliberate and hard slap in his face, I am not saying that I feel sorry for my father. Not at all. But I know it would feel horrible to be in his position right now. With the actual ownership coming to me, he now knows that he is always at my mercy in the sense that I can have him evicted. I can ask him for rent. I can do anything, and without reason. I mean, of course I can't flout rules. But let's be real. We all know how much power homeowners have over their tenants. I have no idea what the outrage regarding this is going to be, but I am sure that there will be something. My father is going to make a huge fuss about it. I'm sure of that, But I can't be bothered with this unnecessary drama before my wedding. I will gladly accept the gift from Grandpa, whatever the reason he has given it to me, and I will respect him in his gift. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, and I am not going to waste time thinking about all this right now either. Update 1. Well, hell has hit the fan. My wedding is a week away, and the family is in complete shambles. I tried to stay away from the drama as much as possible, but I just couldn't. I was forcefully dragged into it even when I tried to maintain boundaries. After Grandpa had made it known that he was gifting the house to me, this caused a huge stir because Dad, I am sure, never even anticipated that something like this could happen. He called me up a couple of times, but I didn't answer his calls because I knew all too well what they were going to be about. He then sent me a text saying that I needed to knock some sense into Grandpa and said that he was ashamed of the man I had become because he had not raised a petty person like me who would turn his back on his own family. I didn't respond to this text either and have since blocked him. He has been trying to get in touch with me through other sources, even getting Savannah to call me. She called me once, but when I didn't respond, she was respectful and hasn't tried calling me again. When nothing else worked, he started sending me emails. He is getting desperate, and it is showing. I try my best to ignore his nonsense, but it is mentally taxing to wake up to 5 emails every single day. I just dread waking up in the morning because I know that there is something waiting for me. He is still invited to my wedding as of now, but I want to cancel the invitation. I know it will send a bad message, but at this point, I don't care. I can't even look at his face right now, and if I am being honest, I need distance from Savannah too right now. I am scared he is going to pull off something during the wedding as well. I called up my grandpa and I told him that he needs to ensure that all this drama is kept away from me until I'm back from my honeymoon. I told him that I didn't care what you do. You needed to make sure that this didn't spill over onto my wedding and my honeymoon. I have already dealt with a lot due to the family, and I don't want to screw up the one important day of my life. Grandpa assured me that he would make sure Dad didn't do anything, and that I would not be contacted about all this until I was back from my honeymoon. I hope nothing bad happens, but in the event that it does, I will just deal with it once I am back. I have a lot on my plate, and I cannot allow myself to deal with a father who doesn't care about me and has used me like a cash cow right now. Update 2. I am now a married man. Mahira and I returned from our honeymoon a few days ago, and it was amazing. I had the time of my life there, and thankfully no one from the family disturbed me. They couldn't, because most of them were blocked. I thought the drama might be over by now, but boy, I was completely wrong. I hadn't even imagined that things would be so dire by the time I returned. I got a call from Gemma yesterday asking to meet her and Savannah. I told her that I wasn't very comfortable meeting Savannah. I had uninvited them from the wedding because I just couldn't handle the stress. She said that she understood my apprehensions, and so did Savannah, but she still wanted me to meet them just once so that they could clarify everything. I was reluctant, but I said okay because I didn't want to let Gemma down. She was an innocent party, and I did not hold anything against her. She said that both she and Savannah were actually in my city, and that they wanted to meet as soon as possible. The meeting was, well, long. It was awkward between me and Savannah initially, and she congratulated me on the wedding. I told her that I disinvited them primarily because of Dad, and also because I thought maybe somewhere she was complicit in the entire situation of extracting money out of me using Gemma's education and Ashley's health as a front. The minute I said this, she broke down sobbing. She said that she had no idea that Dad had actually taken money from Grandpa, and then proceeded to tell me what happened. By the time she had told me the entire story, I had literal flames coming out of my ears. So Ashley was sick. That part is true. Dad had used some of his savings for her treatment, but that was not enough. So he said that he would ask Grandpa for money and promised Savannah that he would give the money back to Grandpa. She said fine, and that was the last she heard about the money from him. Ashley got better, and for her, everything was back to normal. So when she found out all those years ago that he had used up Gemma's money, she was furious and didn't believe it at all. When she asked Dad about it, he just told her that he had used up that money to repay Grandpa. He concocted an entire sob story about how Grandpa was pressuring him, that he had no choice at that point but to use that money, and that I had offered to help myself. Savannah said that she was very embarrassed by the entire situation, but was still very grateful to me for the help. Their marriage hit a rough patch during that time, and it took them a lot of counseling and therapy to get back to normal. She said that all that came crashing down when Grandpa said he would be gifting the house to me and disclosed to her that he had never received the money back. She said it felt like someone had slapped her across the face. She asked him where the money was. He tried to lie and make his way around it, but ultimately admitted that he had an affair, and the affair partner was trying to out his secret to Savannah. In order to shut her up, he had to give her that money, and only then did she leave him alone. Once the cat was out of the bag, it was over for them. Savannah has since then moved out of the place, and they are headed for a divorce. She said that Dad had been trying to get her to reconcile, but she said that cheating was something that she was just not willing to condone. I couldn't believe my ears. So much had happened in that meeting that I just did not have the bandwidth to process that information. I consoled her, and we then left. I have been in touch with both her and Gemma, and I plan to continue doing so. I just feel horrible that I disinvited her for no fault of hers. She was, in fact, the biggest victim in all of this. I can only feel rage and disgust right now. I cannot believe my father would be a cheater on top of being a fraud. I mean, he is the worst combination ever known to mankind, and I don't want anything to do with him ever again. I just want to help Savannah out and do right by her, even though she was failed by my father. Update 3. I am now charging my father rent. He is continuing to live in the same house, and I told him that I needed him to sign an official agreement to continue residing in the house. The rent is a good amount, and that coupled with the divorce in the process is going to bleed him dry, and he deserves it. I have also decided that I will be splitting the rent 2 ways and sharing it with both Mom and Savannah. Savannah will be getting the larger share because she was always a stay-at-home mom and she needs the money now more than ever. My mother, on the other hand, has been a working woman all her life and she does not really need the money. In fact, she was the one who gave me this idea and was of the opinion that all the money should go to Savannah. Mahira and I don't need the money for ourselves. We are comfortably placed where we are, and we could easily do without the additional income. The same cannot be said for Savannah, and I feel it is my duty to help her out. She was there for me when my dad wasn't, and I want to thank her for all that she has done for me. I know she isn't going to accept the money, but I will make sure that she does. My father reacted poorly when served with the rent agreement, and tried to get other family members to manipulate me into taking back the agreement. But unfortunately for him, the entire family now knows that he is a filthy, filthy man, and they don't want anything to do with him either. He tried to get in touch with me via texts, calls, and emails, but all of them were unanswered and well documented. He then tried to get to me via Grandpa, but he gave him a stern reality check, which has since then calmed him down. He is not on my head asking me to reconsider for the past few days. I think he has understood that, given the circumstances, he cannot really expect anything better. Savannah is going to try to get full custody of Ashley, though that doesn't seem very likely at the moment. Dad is better placed to take care of her financially, but his incompetence as a parent is not difficult to prove. I don't know what will happen on that front, but I genuinely hope that Ashley stays with Savannah. Savannah is a great mom, and she will do well with Ashley. I cannot say the same for my father. Funnily enough, I can say the opposite for him with every ounce of conviction. Not an idiot. OP's father didn't just fail. OP once, he made a habit out of using people as financial tools and then hiding behind excuses. He lied to OP, lied to Savannah, lied to Gemma, lied to OP's grandfather, and somehow still thought he was entitled to dictate OP's marriage and keep money that was never his. The rent situation is honestly poetic justice. OP didn't ruin his life. He did that all on his own. And now let's hear community's opinion. I feel awful for Savannah. She sounds like the only adult in that house who actually tried to do right by everyone, including you, and she paid the price for trusting a man who clearly has no problem stealing, cheating, and manipulating his own family. You were right to cut your father off completely. Protect your peace and your marriage. He has earned every consequence coming his way. From a practical standpoint, you've handled this better than most people would. You documented everything, involved the right people, didn't explode publicly, and let the truth come out on its own. Charging rent and formalizing the agreement is exactly what a landlord should do. Anyone telling you that you're being petty is conveniently ignoring years of financial abuse and deception. Not an idiot, but I would strongly recommend keeping firm boundaries going forward. Your father has shown you who he is repeatedly, and people like that don't suddenly grow a conscience. Help Savannah if you want to. Stay close to Gemma if that relationship matters to you. But don't leave any door open for your dad to crawl back through. Focus on your wife and your future. You've already lost enough time to his chaos.